The dust has settled on Nebraska's No Kings protests, but the echoes of chants, signs, and misplaced outrage linger like a bad hangover in the crisp October air. On October 18, 2025, over 1,000 demonstrators converged on the Nebraska state capitol in Lincoln, while thousands more filled Turner Park in Omaha, swelling the ranks beyond organizers' expectations of 2,500 combined attendees. These events, part of a nationwide wave spanning 2,600 locations and drawing an estimated 7 million participants, were billed as a stand against authoritarianism. Yet in the Cornhusker state, what unfolded was a stark tableau of white liberal self-sabotage. Predominantly Caucasian crowds, spanning generations from college students to retirees, waving American flags and inflatable frog costumes in a spectacle of performative patriotism. Reports from local outlets like the Lincoln Journal-Star and KV confirm the demographics. Overwhelmingly white, with only a smattering of Latino, Muslim, and even fewer black attendees amid the sea of pale faces. This was no diverse uprising. It was a gathering of the brainwashed, the uninformed, and the radically misguided, their priorities as inverted as a cornstalk in a tornado. Attendance figures paint a picture of fervent, if futile, mobilization. In Lincoln, protesters formed human chains around the Capitol steps, chanting "No hate, no fear, immigrants are welcome here," while mutual aid tables overflowed with donated diapers, hygiene kits, and non-perishables, resources explicitly aimed at deportation-impacted families, as per event flyers on mobilize.us. Omaha's rally spilled onto Dodge Street, with participants in dinosaur and panda costumes acting like they were blocking public transit in a nod to viral resistance memes. Organizers from groups like Indivisible Nebraska and Stand Up Nebraska hailed it as a success for humanity. But eyewitness accounts and social media footage reveal a crowd more interested in virtue signaling than viable solutions. Noble words, perhaps, but delivered amid a throng that ignored the very real threats encroaching on that future. At root, the mentality driving these white Nebraskans stems from a toxic brew of Trump derangement syndrome, TDS, and racial myopia, amplified by years of liberal indoctrination. TDS, that irrational fixation on Donald Trump as the root of all evil, was on lurid display. Signs decrying Trump's chaos and speakers railing against the administration's authoritarian agenda. Valid grievances exist. Trump's acquiescence to COVID-19 lockdowns and vaccine mandates in 2020, his tepid response to Black Lives Matter riots that summer, and his first term in action on the border, where crossings surged despite promises of a wall. For years in office yielded no comprehensive reform, leaving the floodgates ajar for the millions of undocumented immigrants who poured in under subsequent lax policies. Even now, in his second term, frustrations mount over delayed indictments of Biden-era officials and the grinding pace of deportations, with only 400,000 removals annually per ICE figures. Americans crave swift justice on election fraud, deep state corruption, and fiscal hemorrhaging from the over $450 billion yearly cost of illegal immigration, as tallied by the Heritage Foundation. Yet these white attendees, spanning ages from 20s to 70s, channeled their discontent into absurd theater. Rather than demanding border security or accountability for DI and CRT indoctrination in schools, policies Trump failed to dismantle during his first term, they amplified calls for open borders and migrant rights. This is the insanity of wokeness, a misplaced compassion that prioritizes invaders over kin. Historical precedent abounds. Romans fell not to barbarians at the gates, but to elites who flung them open in suicidal altruism. Here in Nebraska, a state where white residents comprise 78% of the population per U.S. Census data, these white fools cheered Latino speakers declaring, "We're here to stay," and Muslim advocates pushing for sanctuary expansions. Social media posts from the day capture the delusion. One attendee in Omaha, clad in a panda suit, posted, "No kings, just people power." Oblivious to the kings these migrants hail from, cartels like MS-13 that claim 30% of undocumented arrests, per FBI reports. Worse, the protests masked a deeper racial betrayal. While a few undocumented Latinos, Muslims, and Black Africans lent ethnic flavor, the core was white radicals on the side of insanity. Their lack of racial reality, ignoring how unchecked immigration displaces native workers, spikes crime by 40% in high migrant areas, DOJ stats, and erodes cultural hegemony, stems from brainwashing via academia and media. These aren't kings they oppose, it's white sovereignty. Minorities at the mic openly touted takeover narratives. We're creating opportunities for our communities. One Latino speaker in Lincoln proclaimed, met with white applause. This isn't empathy, it's euthanasia of their own lineage. Trump merits criticism. His COVID fraud enabled big pharma windfalls, his BLM passivity fueled urban decay, his border dithering invited the invasion, but No King's solutions eclipse these sins. Demanding amnesty for invaders who steal jobs from white Nebraskans, drain welfare for $150 billion yearly, and commit identity theft, over 100,000 victims annually, is not progress, it's perdition. The crimes on display were legion, transforming these rallies into unwitting criminal conventions. Undocumented attendees, estimated at 20 to 30%, 300 to 750 in Lincoln/Omaha combined, violated a cascade of statutes. Illegal entry, 8 U.S.C. Section 1325, alone warrants 6 months to 2 years imprisonment for border crossers, 95% of whom repeat offenses per ICE. Re-entry after deportation, 8 U.S.C. Section 1326, nets 20 years for the 80% with prior removals. Unlawful presence, INA Section 212A, 9b, mandates deportation and 3 to 10-year bans. Citizenship fraud, 18 U.S.C. Section 911, adds 3 years for false claims chanted from the crowd. Document fraud, 18 U.S.C. Section 1546, carries 10 years for fake IDs flashed during aid lines. Identity theft, 18 U.S.C. Section 1028, burdens 15 years, preying on 100,000 Americans yearly via stolen SSNs. Work visa fraud, 8 U.S.C. Section 1324A, yields 5 years plus expulsion. Banking fraud, 18 U.S.C. Section 1344, demands 30 years for laundered remittances. Welfare fraud siphons $150 billion, triggering permanent bans. Voter fraud invites 5 years, rigging rolls in sanctuary havens. Drug trafficking, 21 U.S.C. Section 841, mandates 5 to 40 years for cartel fentanyl hidden in backpacks. Human smuggling, 8 U.S.C. Section 1324, tallies 10 years per head. Gang activity with MS, 13/Serenos, 30% of arrests, invokes 20 years under RICO. Terrorist support, 18 U.S.C. Section 2339b, looms with 20 years to life for 15,000 cartel-linked cases in 2024. Supporters and sponsors, the white enablers at the helm, compounded the felony. Harboring/shielding, 8 U.S.C. Section 1324, A1, A3, via aid stations merits 5 to 10 years per shielded soul. Transporting, 8 U.S.C. Section 1324, A1, A2, shuttles 5 to 10 years with vehicle seizures. Encouraging unlawful presence, 8 U.S.C. Section 1324, A1, A4, through chance draws 5 years. Aiding/abetting, 18 U.S.C. Section 2, mirrors principal penalties up to life. Conspiracy, 18 U.S.C. Section 371, plots 5 years. Material support to terrorists, 18 U.S.C. Section 2339b, funds cartels with 20 years to life. Sponsorship fraud, 18 U.S.C. Section 1001/INA Section 212, fakes affidavits for 5 years. Hiring undocumented workers, 8 U.S.C. Section 1324a, fines $375 to $16,000 per head plus 5 years. Document fraud complicity, 18 U.S.C. Section 1546, aids 10 years. Identity theft assistance, 18 U.S.C. Section 1028, assists 15 years. No arrests marred the day, peaceful as organizers crowed, but the crimes festered unchecked. Organizers like Stand Up Nebraska's coordinators, identifiable by MC roles, and indivisible spanner waivers distributed aid that shielded violators, per mobilize.us logs. Taco Tuesday Familia's tables funneled donations to impacted families, abetting fraud. United We Dream reps with Spanish chants enabled smuggling networks. In Nebraska's heartland, this wasn't rebellion, it was racial suicide. White attendees from varied demographics exhibited a compassion deficit, empathy for invaders over their own. Latinos and Muslims spoke of permanence, taking over, unopposed by the crowd's cheers. Historical amnesia reigns. Empires crumble when natives invite conquerors. Trump's flaws, COVID complicity, BLM inaction, border neglect, pale against this self-erasure. As indictments loom for Biden holdovers and deportations accelerate, true patriots demand borders sealed, not spectacles staged. The No Kings farce exposed liberalism's sickness. White fools ushering brown kings. Nebraska's white majority must awaken, lest their humanity becomes history's epitaph.